Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems and welcome back to MX Simulator, folks. It is 2020 and it's time for the Supercross season to get underway. If you were not with us earlier this week, we streamed the first round of the Pro MX Simulator Supercross Championship on Wednesday night. Had record turnout. It was a fabulous night of streaming and racing and just a lot of fun being had. So don't miss those every Wednesday night at 6:20 p.m. Pacific, 9:20 p.m. Eastern. We'll be streaming those Pro Sim races, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun this week, like I said, so looking forward to the rest of the 16 rounds we still have to go with that. But this is the track that they raced on. This is Anaheim 1 2020. Judging by looking at some of the track builds that I've already seen posted from Supercross Live, a couple of the sections are going to be slightly different. I think actually mostly everything's going to be pretty much the same except for the rhythm section about 2 corners before where I am now is going to have a dragon's back in it instead of just like a standard rhythm jump. But the first rhythm looks the same. The second rhythm looks the same. They have whoops in the exact same spots. The over-under is in the exact same spot. So I think the track is pretty close to what it's going to be in real life. And obviously these guys building it off the blueprint for the Race Factor Gaming series did a fabulous job putting the track together and making something that was a really, really good racetrack, I felt like, for watching racing and seeing good passing and stuff like that go on. So a lot of fun, and we're going to play it here for the next 20 or so minutes while I talk you guys through what might be going on this year in the 250 West Region Championship in real life. We already did a 450 real life video earlier this week when I played Monster Energy Supercross 2 and played a replica custom version of Anaheim 1 as well. But now we're going to talk about the 250 class because we did not talk about the 250 class in that video because I was waiting as deep into the week as I could so that we could get as much information in there about, you know, who's riding what coast and all of that, because it's never actually officially announced. The teams don't really make it a point to say what class these guys are going to ride. But now we have more information and we can kind of determine what is going to happen. So for the Star Racing Yamaha team, they're going to be lining up defending West Coast champion Dylan Ferrandis, and probably their second best rider on the team. I know McElrath joining the team adds a lot of star power indoors, but Justin Cooper definitely turned a lot of heads last year, and he will also be racing West. As far as we know, it sounds like that's the case. Talking to one of my buddies earlier this week, we found out that McElrath has been told he will be racing East. I think Nichols is not healthy enough to race West. I think he's going to be out for West because of a shoulder injury. So that basically just leaves Ferrandis and Cooper. And so that's who they will line up. Geico Honda was stricken by an injury to Chase Sexton. For some reason, he was going to try to race West. Sounds like that's not going to happen anymore. So instead, they're going to be trotting out just off of suspension Christian Craig and basically 2 fresh to the class rookies in Jet Lawrence and Joe Shimoda. Hunter Lawrence sounds like he was either re-injured or wasn't fully prepared for Supercross or something along those lines. So they're going to put his brother Jet out here on the west and move H-Law to the east, and Jeremy Martin will also be racing east. But it's going to be Craig, Shimoda, and Jet Lawrence for the Geico Honda boys out west. TLD KTM appears to be Hartraft and Brian Moreau, the new French rider incoming. They also have Derek Drake and Pierce Brown. They also have Derek Drake and Pierce Brown, but it sounds like both of those guys will be going east. So they're going to have the rookie Moreau joining Hartraft, which is kind of like the senior guy on the team this season. Maybe try to get as much experience as they can out of him and get, you know, a lot of testing done on the West Coast and stuff like that. So that's going to be TLD KTM. And then everybody's going to obviously keep their eye on Pro Circuit Kawasaki. Now, this lineup is completely and utterly unconfirmed. I'm not going to swear to this being the right lineup whatsoever, but what we're hearing, what we're seeing is Austin Forkner will be racing West with Cameron McAdoo, and that puts Jordan Smith and Garrett Marchbanks on the East. So we'll be looking at Forkner basically versus Ferrandis as like the marquee matchup coming into this opening round. Ferrandis has, I think, 3 250 Supercross wins to his credit now. Forkner has 7. in all reality here, Ferrandis probably actually like shouldn't have won the West title last year, but he did. And Forkner definitely should have won the East title last year, but he didn't because he got hurt. So this is kind of like the marquee matchup of the season, I feel like, where a lot of heads are going to be pointed to this one for the 250 class to see, can Ferrandis defend his championship against a guy that is basically listed, he's number 1 in the 250 power rankings right now, and that was voted on by several analysts and pundits and stuff like that. So Forkner, top of the sheets, clearly one of the fastest 250 riders in Supercross these last couple of years. Basically, he was amazing last year. Definitely should have won the championship without that injury. So that's going to be a good matchup. I'm looking forward to Ferrandis matching up with Austin Forkner. And then what am I missing? I'm missing JGR Suzuki, which I think is going to have Alex Martin coming out and racing 250 West. Jimmy Dakotas will be racing 250 East, I think, and be racing 450s at Anaheim 1. And Freddie Norton's going to also be racing 450s for that team. So I think it's Alex Martin on a factory Suzuki. And then they're also going to have, not Suzuki, but the Husky team, I think, is basically just going to be Michael Moseman. They also have RJ Hampshire, and they also have Jalik Swoll, but I believe both of those guys will be doing East. So to surmise that one last time, it is going to be Ferrandis, Cooper, Craig, Jet Lawrence, Joe Shimoda. So Christian Craig and Jet Lawrence, Joe Shimoda. Cameron McAdoo, Austin Forkner, Brandon Hartranft, and Brian Moreau. Michael Moseman for Husqvarna, Alex Martin for Suzuki. And then kind of smattering in there a couple other guys that probably should be talked about on some level is going to be the debut rides, or just the debut ride, I should say. Well, I mean, you could talk about Moreau's debut ride, but the debut ride for Luke Clout, who is going to be coming over here and doing some West Coast racing under the Penrite Honda Bill, which is the team that he now rides for in Australia. But why that's kind of a big deal is because Clout almost won the 450 Australian Supercross Championship this year. He just lost out to Brayton in the last round, but he had the red plate going into the last round. And you bring over a guy of that caliber, basically, that I'm not going to say he's going to come out and win races right away, but when you had the kind of season he had in Australia that just, basically a month ago at this point, he's clearly got some good confidence about him. He seems like he's got a pretty good handle of what's going on a Supercross track. I would look to see this guy get some, good starts, run up front maybe a few times. I wouldn't be all that shocked to see him land on the box. I would be shocked to see him win for sure, but on the box I feel like is possible for him, just judging by his skill set. And that's going to be a fun one to watch. And then we'll also have to keep an eye on Jacob Hayes, who is going to join the AJE Gas Monkey Energy Husqvarna team. So last year he rode for Cycle Trader Rock River Yamaha. Now he switches over to Husqvarna. I don't know if that's going to be a positive step. It's almost like you're going from one like B team. It's a great team, but it's not a factory ride. So you're going from one B team to another B team essentially, because it's not that factory level equipment per se. But Hayes is really good and is a guy that can challenge when healthy for some potential race wins, or definitely at the very least some podiums. So keep an eye on Jacob Hayes. And then Mitchell Oldenburg also is another guy that's going to come in and in his eyes probably want to turn some heads, talking about Penrite Honda with Luke Clout. Oldenburg coming in with Penrite Honda support. He's not on any factory team anymore. He used to be on TLD KTM, then he was on Star Yamaha last couple of years. Now he is sort of having to rebuild his career after he's been kind of pushed off of these US based factory teams a little bit and trying to figure things out again. So I think Oldenburg in a sense is coming in with a chip on his shoulder, where it's like he knows he definitely has speed to contend. Like, he was a podium threat last year, finished on the podium once or twice, I believe. So he knows basically he has the speed, but it's more or less just putting it together over an entire season to get those points and finish higher in the championship, where it really, has not worked out that way in the past, basically his entire career. Like, he just hasn't really put the whole thing together yet, even though he's super fast, And when he gets the ball rolling, he's going to definitely be a contender. So that is kind of like the guys. And I know I'm probably missing a couple, but that's kind of how it works in this 250 class, just because we'll show up on Saturday and be like, wow, I didn't really know that this guy was going to be racing on the West. Like, nobody said anything. We hadn't heard any news, and yet here he is. So that, is definitely going to be something that is going to throw a wrench in kind of everyone's picks come Saturday practice. But this is what we know of coming into the weekend as it stands right now. So what does that mean for the championship? If all these guys that I just mentioned are going to be racing the West this year, where are we going to be looking to see kind of champion coming out of, essentially? And I personally think that the champion that is, basically going to be the championship fight is going to be between Forkner and Ferrandis. I think Justin Cooper is going to win more races this year than he did last. I mean, he didn't win any races last year, but he contended for race wins and, technically speaking, contended for a championship down the stretch. I think Cooper's going to maybe pick up a couple wins, but I'm not too sure. So I really just it's tough to swing it any other way than it's just going to be kind of like a Ferrandis Forkner show, because honestly speaking, these two guys are probably the two elite 250 class riders in this class right now. I mean, Jeremy Martin coming back from injury, he's supposedly not going to be racing Anaheim 1 again. Like, I was really tentative with the Geico Honda news, but it sounds like Martin's racing East. Even if Martin does come back and race West, yeah, he is like the winningest 250 rider basically that would be on the gate in that class. But the problem is he's coming off like a huge injury, like a burst fracture in his back, had to sit out a year and a half while it healed and then got infected, and then he had to go in for surgery and get it refixed and all that stuff like that. It's been a long uphill climb for J-Mart, and to say that he's going to just immediately come back and be like race winning speed might be a little kind of overbearing. So I don't think he's racing West, but if J-Mart is racing West and you throw him in with that Forkner Ferrandis grouping a little bit, then yeah, I guess you could say there is someone else there that really has the potential to win races. But I just don't see how Forkner or Ferrandis aren't the guys basically we're keeping an eye on this entire season. Like I said, I think Cooper, he has the speed to win, and Christian Craig has won races before, but coming off the suspension, we don't really, exactly know his mindset and everything. Like, is he completely back on track with his training schedule and all that? So I think he'll fly in under the radar for sure, and maybe before long he could be contending for podiums and wins again. But it's just like you don't know with this 250 class, because it was so cut and dry, like basically at the end of the year last year. Like, if we're talking about outdoors, for example, it was Ferrandis, Cooper, and Cianciarulo. They were just like dominating at the end of outdoors last year. And yeah, McElrath had 2 wins at Budds Creek that were just kind of random, but that's what it was. So if you look at that on paper, then yeah, it says Ferrandis and Cooper are going to be great this year as well. But they were missing Austin Forkner, because Forkner blew his knee out last Supercross, didn't even race outdoors, but arguably was probably the best 250 rider overall before he got hurt. Yeah, he didn't win the showdown in Atlanta. That went to Cianciarulo over Ferrandis and then Forkner. However, he was still pretty much lights out when it came to racing his East counterparts, and he clearly knew that when the showdown was going on, that he only needed to beat the guys that were in his division, and he did that. So, I think Forkner is just going to come right back out swinging and be pretty much as good as he was last year. And then you couple that with the kind of year Ferrandis had with so many wins, winning that 250 West Championship, and it's almost like, I don't want to say it's a go for broke year for Ferrandis, but it kind of is, in a sense that he is going to move up next season. He's forced out of the 250 class because he's won a championship, and he only gets 1 year to defend after spending more than 3 years in the class, and that's just how it works. But he's shopping around for a 450 ride. It would look almost bad if he didn't repeat as champion, because it would be like, ooh, like he got the title and then it got more of a struggle for him. Like, why would that happen? And 450 teams may look the other way of that. I don't know. But it's kind of like why not just go out there and really just throw caution to the wind? Because if you win this championship again, you go into 450s as a 2-time 250 Supercross champion. It's I would say it's pretty likely that he replaces either Plessinger or Barsha at Yamaha, but there are other spots that would be available, and I think that teams are going to want to look at him as someone that they could pick up on their team coming into 2021. So Ferrandis kind of has this little carrot dangling in front of him of like, oh, I should go repeat because it's going to help my checkbook. It's going to help my chances with being on a really, really good team next season in the 450 class where, he's going to be forced to move. So, I think you have two guys basically in this class with Forkner and Ferrandis that are coming in with still chips on their shoulder and reasons to be the guy of the class. And I think that's going to create like an exciting dynamic between the two of them because both of them are almost like a no holds barred. Like they definitely send it when it comes to racing one another for sure. So that's going to be really, really exciting to watch. I mean, behind that, like I said, I think like if I could pick a top 5 in this 250 West division based off of who we think is racing, I'll say Forkner wins the title this year. Ferrandis doesn't repeat, he gets second. And then I think probably Justin Cooper is going to get third would be my guess. And then, gosh, after that, I don't know. I'll say... Jeez. I'll say Amart gets 4th. And then I'll say McAdoo gets 5th and, like, Christian Craig gets 6th. Or something like that. Some depth chart like that on some level. Man. It's such a tough pick with this class because you have so many guys with really, really different stories coming into the year. It doesn't give you the sense that like all these guys are like 100% ready to go because it doesn't feel like the offseason was all that long. I mean, it's the same every year, but it just seems like, Craig basically just found out he's going to be able to race. Only, I think it was like 3 weeks ago now that he was cleared after going to court with the FIM in Geneva. So, man, like he may come in blazing fast and completely under the radar, or he may come in and hit the struggle bus a lot because it's just been a roller coaster of an off season. And then McAdoo picking up a factory ride, he basically had the choice of where he wanted to go, and he finished on the box last year at Vegas in the showdown, but Cameron McAdoo has been crash prone. So, is that going to be something that continues to bite him now that he's on a factory team? There's almost like that added pressure. Yeah, I know he rode for Geico the last couple of years and stuff like that, but still, it's a little bit different because, like, PC is almost expecting him to be one of the guys that contends for wins, where Geico had, more or less their guys, and McAdoo was, like, the second guy. And, yeah, now you have, like, Forkner, so he doesn't have to have all the pressure weighing on his shoulders necessarily in this race because Forkner is the PC guy. But still, on some level, I think there's more expectation when you're riding PC Cowie than when you're riding Geico Honda. That's just, I know that championship-wise, Geico has a lot of championships and a history and all that, but still, it's different when you ride for PC Cowie. Like, that's the 250 team. That's what everybody wanted to ride. I'm sure when McAdoo was, like, coming through the ranks and was, watching pro racing in 2008, 2009 or whatever, it was like, man, how cool would it be to ride for PC Cowie one day? And now he is, so a lot of pressure comes with that, and I think he'll be fine, but if he hits the ground a lot, I don't know if I would necessarily be shocked either, just because that's kind of his MO at this point, is he crashes a lot, unfortunately. Behind that, let's talk a little bit about some of these other guys. I think my sleeper pick, everybody's going to hate me for saying this because I always seem to go Euro-sided with everything. But honestly, I think people are really going to sleep on Moreau because this is someone that he wasn't like a perennial GP front runner. He wasn't winning motos. He wasn't doing this, that, or the other thing. But he did come over and race Monster Cup in the Amateur All-Star class and was fastest qualifier. And if it wasn't for a couple untimely mistakes, he probably should have won the event. And, now he's going to be racing some of those same guys that he was faster than at the Amateur All-Star race at Monster Cup. And, I think that as with all French riders, he already kind of has like this Supercross thing down to a degree. I will say the one thing about him is he's still quite young, and being that he's going to come right fresh into basically the biggest Supercross race of the year, he'll probably ride over his head, and I definitely wouldn't be shocked to see him on the ground a couple times. But, if he can Gumby himself off the ground and not get hurt, I think before long you'll see him putting in some really solid results, and before, maybe even as soon as next year become a guy that can easily challenge for podiums and potentially wins. I'm not saying podiums and wins this year. I am not saying that whatsoever, but I think people are just going to completely discount Moreau and be like, Hart Ramped is the guy for TLD KTM, and then Moreau is going to be the fastest qualifier of the two and probably somewhere nicely inside the top 10 for qualifying, and we're going to be like, wow, that's impressive. So definitely keep an eye on that, I would say. It's going to be kind of an interesting one to watch this year. Alex Martin is in a year where, he's had this 2-year contract with JGR, and we're not really sure if JGR is going to be able to pull the funding to have a 2021 team and stuff like that. And also, A-Mart's been in the 250 class for a long time. So is his brother J-Mart, and you could kind of maybe put that down to their short and stature kind of nature. But, like, Alex still doesn't have a 250 Supercross win when you start comparing him to someone like Davalos, who is now out of the class. A-Mart's been racing a pretty long time. I think his first 250 race was in 2010. So you think about it, he's been racing in the 250 class for a decade, no wins, but he's been on factory teams. It's put up or shut up a little bit for him. And I like A-Mart. I really like the Martin brothers. Really nice guys. But you just kind of have to call it like you see it. And for Alex, it's he's on a factory team. He's the leader of the team, essentially. He's expected to go out there and challenge for wins and podiums and stuff like that. And if he doesn't get it done soon, he's going to be out of a ride on a factory level in the 250 class, and maybe even forced to move up at some point to the 450 class to find places to ride. So I don't know. I think, we can kind of look at all of these guys in this 250 class as having something to fight for, something that, like a chip on their shoulder or whatever you want to call it. But I think that mainly the guys that are coming in with the least amount of pressure, I would say, are going to do the best. I don't think many people are like saying Justin Cooper has to win the title or it's a disaster. I think they're saying he's great enough as it is. Like, he'll win his championships when he does. But right now he's behind two of the best 250 riders in the world right now in Ferrandis and Forkner, and when he wins, he'll win, but it's not a huge deal. And then for Ferrandis and Forkner's sake, they already have kind of proven themselves, so there's not really much left to prove. Like, yeah, I guess if it's a disaster and they're finishing 5th every round, then you're kind of like, what exactly is going on here? Like, where did 2019 version of these guys go? But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're ready to set sail at the front. And more so, I feel like in, I don't know, a decade or more, this 250 class looks pretty straightforward on who is going to contend, at least in my opinion. I'm sure I'm missing someone, but that's the way I see it right now. 250 West shakedown a little bit. And yeah, I'd absolutely love to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I know 100% you guys are going to dog me for how terribly I've been riding this track. My sim skills are awful. They're getting worse and worse as the years go on because I just don't have time to play it as much anymore. But I figured I should show off the road function because people always say I should ride with a road, and then you can see what happens. I'm just terrible at the game. So yeah, but it's not the point. The point is that we're here to talk about 250 West Region Supercross Championship in 2020 for the real life guys, and Anaheim 1 coming up this weekend. So I will be there this weekend. I know that's a question that will probably be asked. I'll be there with my new job working for Racer X. I'm pretty sure I'll be there press day on Friday, and I will definitely be there on Saturday, basically all day. I'd imagine I'll be fairly busy, but if there are people around that would like to meet up and whatever, hit me up on Instagram or Twitter or whatever and just say, hey, I'm here. If I can walk over to that area at that time, I'll hit you back and be like, yeah, that's cool. I'll meet you over there and whatever. But I always love meeting people and seeing what you guys are doing and seeing how excited for the season you are, and just doing a little bit of bench race and bringing it into the night show right into the new season. I can't believe A1's already here. It is tomorrow night, folks. Anaheim 1 dropping the gate. So excited, can't wait, and really hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of 250 West discussion here today on the channel. Be sure to hit the comment section below and offer your thoughts. Download the track in the description below as well, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.